Good morning and welcome to ITS Connect for December. Today's topic is going to be about some updates to Adobe Connect. Again, my name is Jennifer Loudiana. I am from Information Technology, and welcome today. And I hope that you learned something new that you can use in your everyday work life. So I titled this Adobe Connect 9. We actually updated from version 8 to 9 in August. So some of you may have seen a few of these changes, but it was pretty subtle. So I wanted to kind of highlight a few of the behind the scenes changes that are there that make it a little bit easier to use for the classroom or for meetings or however you use Adobe Connect. A lot of the features are the same features that we've had. Most of them work the same. There are some new and improved features, which I will go over as well. And then I have a few tech tips. We've had some questions about a few things using Adobe Connect, so I want to talk about those and a couple of settings that you can check if you are using it, if you find you have some trouble. And then lastly, mobile. If you attended last month's session on the iPad, I actually showed the mobile version of Adobe Connect. So that actually should be published this week. So if you want to go back and take a little more look at that, but there is a mobile app, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the features in that mobile app. So one of the first tech tips is that the best connection for using Adobe Connect is wired. It makes it a lot smoother connection. Also, there is a link there for testing your connection, so you can make sure that you do have a good connection, that the bandwidth is good. And also for anyone participating in the meeting should also do the same to make sure that they have that set up correctly. There is a spot where you can check your bandwidth. Adobe actually recommends that you set this. You'll see on your screen that there's a little image there. You would go, when you open your meeting, you would go to Meetings, Preferences, and then Room Bandwidth, and you will get the screenshot below, and you can choose what you have. Adobe recommends you use DSL/cable for the connections that you have. That is the best choice. So keep that in mind. Maybe as in my case, I actually went in and noticed mine was set differently. So I have now set it to DSL cable. And so we'll see how that makes a difference. Another thing is your camera, microphone, and audio settings. And this tends to be something people need to check pretty frequently. So each time you either go into a meeting or you're having a meeting, I would make sure that you understand how, if you're using a headset, make sure you know how to mute yourself, how to set the volume, how to work your headset and make sure that people can hear you. The same with a webcam. If your webcam is not built into your computer, you want to make sure that you understand how it works. Maybe test it out a couple times by yourself or with another person and make sure that you can use Adobe Connect and that the audio and video are good for your meeting. The webcam settings, you would add the video pod, which is what it's called. That's what I am in on Adobe Connect. If you would see my meeting, you would see me in the top left corner. Those can be resized. I know there are classes that all they have are all of the video pods and they resize them and they are able to have 6, 8, or 9 people in there. I know there's some courses in the nursing school that do that and they have just a large meeting and everyone's video feed. Also, when you do this, make sure that you actually click the Start Sharing, because when you activate your webcam, you're going to have a preview. So that's an option you can turn off. I wouldn't recommend it just because it helps you get a better idea of what's around you, the lighting. If you're in front of something and you realize, oh, I have all this stuff behind me, you may want to adjust your computer or yourself. Also your view. So if you are looking at your webcam, if it's on your computer, sometimes it can be slanted too far and people are looking at the top of your head or something. And so you want to make sure that that looks good. And so I would leave the preview option there. And then if you were ready, then you would click Start Sharing and then it would fill the pod and you would be able to see that. So that's something to make sure that you check as well. One of the new preferences in 9 is that there's actually a way that you can say in the preferences, if you go to Meeting and Preferences, you'll see a long list. you can check a box that says for active speakers. So what that means is that if someone's talking, in the example I gave of the class that was online and they had maybe 9 or 10 people, the person talking at the time, they would highlight around their box, similar to if you've ever used Google Hangouts or telepresence or any of the video conferencing tools, the way it shifts back and forth. Adobe Connect doesn't do that. It actually will highlight around the person that is speaking so that you see that that's the pod you should be looking at. Also, the audio in the preferences will automatically set the quality level based on the bandwidth, so you won't need to change that. If you do, it is available in the preferences area. Lastly, if you are using audio, I recommend going on early and making sure that you've set up your audio wizard, which makes sure that Connect can hear you, it can find your microphone, it can test silence, it can go through all of that and make sure that it is working correctly. It's actually, if you click Meetings on your meeting and you click Audio Setup Wizard, it'll walk right through and you just click Next, just like a wizard. It will first have sound play. If you can hear the sound, you say yes, click Next. Then it will check for your silence, and then it will finish. If you have any issues with that, at the very end, there is actually a help link, and you can go out and it has some troubleshooting tips for you there. So the last tech tips I have, one of the things is the Chrome browser does not currently work with the Adobe Flash Player add-in. So if you are hosting or attending a meeting, please use Firefox, Safari, or Internet Explorer. Use a different browser, which brings into play also the importance of preparing for your meeting and testing and making sure that it can work. And on that note, you'll see on the screen we actually have a testing room so that you can go in and do that and test it. You can create your own test room if you'd like. I actually have one that I use. If you go in, just create a meeting. You can call it your Jennifer's test room or your name. And then when you go into your meetings in Adobe Connect, you will be able to see that, click on it, and you can direct people there as well to that URL. But if you want to, we do have one available that you can use as well. So some other preferences I mentioned when you're in Adobe Connect, you'll see the meetings menu item on the top left. You can click on that and go to preferences. And there are a lot of preferences that hit every portion. Just a couple that I want to point out. Under the general section, there is a background and cursor views option that you can set or change. Under screen share, you can show the application cursor instead of the Adobe Connect cursor. That's an option there. The attendees pod, you can allow or not allow people to use the little person you'll see to raise your hand. You can turn that on or off. The chat pod, you can allow private chat. So if someone wants to talk to the instructor privately, you can allow that. So if it is a class, this is very helpful because they can choose the person and only chat with that person and not have their chat go to everyone. So if you were not familiar with that, you may want to look at that, but you can turn that on and off as well. And lastly, there is the Q&A pod. You can allow it to show the presenter and participant names or not. So that's another option in the preferences that you can use. And there are other options. I'm just pointing out a few that may be of use to those who are using Adobe Connect. So now that I've talked about some of the tech tips and some of the little features, I want to get into some of the new and improved things that have been in Adobe Connect 9 that are very useful. One of them is the active speaker icon. If you are in our meeting today, you will probably see next to my name a little microphone. I have a picture here of the microphone. That will show who's speaking. Also, if someone mutes it, you will be able to see a little slash through it that has been muted as well. If you have more than one microphone or webcam option, you can now select it in a drop-down. So I don't know how often that happens, but if you happen to have more than one, you can actually select it if you have that. Also in the share pod, and I'll show you this a little bit later, there are two things that I wanted to mention. You can hide the top bar, so you will see as you're looking at it, If you're looking at it in the regular screen mode, you'll see along the top it has a full screen button. If you touch that, it'll go into full screen mode. You can actually make that bar go away so that it actually gives you a better look. And also when it's recording, sometimes it won't show as well. And when you are sharing, you used to have to upload FLV files. You can't upload videos to share into the shared pod. So now you can actually do MP4s. So if you are teaching a class, if you're having a meeting and you want to show something from a video that you've recorded, you can actually upload it into the share pod and play it right from there. And you can use an FLV version or an MP4. Another option as the host of a meeting, you can actually switch between layouts now. On the right hand side there's a real skinny bar, and it will actually show layouts that you have set up, and you can switch between them. So this is extremely helpful if you're in the sharing layout, which is what we are in today, and then maybe you have another layout for your classroom that has maybe the whiteboard and a couple of other layouts. You can actually switch back and forth between those two layouts in your class. So that's a nice feature. It shows up right along the right hand side of the host view. Also, I mentioned the video that this person speaking has a highlighted frame. You can do that in the set preferences. You can turn that on or off as well. The Q&A pod, you can search for people to send messages to. I will pull out a Q&A pod here for you so that you can see it. So this is what the Q&A pod looks like. And if you click on the little icon to the top right, and on all the pods, if you don't know this, on the top right there's little lines. If you click that, you're always going to get a menu for that pod. So if I want to send a message to someone, I can go down here to send message, and I can choose from the list. And if I choose individuals, I can start typing in names. So let me just, there's a couple of A. So I can start typing in names and send a message directly to that person. So that's a nice new feature. Another one is in the polling area. If you do a lot of polling, they have actually added another type of question, which is a short answer. So you used to be restricted to multiple choice or multiple answer, but now you can actually have text fields show up with a short answer as another option. So if you do use polling, that's something new that you can use there. Some of the advanced meeting recording options, if you record your meetings or classes, you actually can pause your recording now during the class. So if you have your pod open in the center and you're recording it, there is actually a pause recording, and it will pause that section, and then you just go in and you start recording again. And you can do that from the top right where the red recording button shows up, or you can do that from the meeting drop-down menu as well. You can also, when you are editing your video, so if you've done a class or a video and you've recorded it and now you want to go in and edit, you can actually create bookmarks. So you could create your own little index for your recording and save that, and then when you publish the recording link for others, they will actually see those items. So if you wanted to go through and listen to your recording and stop it where there are certain breaks, for example, in the example I'll show you, I have a PowerPoint slide, and so at each title change I've actually stopped and put in a bookmark so that when someone comes in they can actually look through that and go to there, which is really nice for a classroom environment, so that if your students open it up they can go in and find out what they want to look at and not have to scroll through the video or wait for it to stream. They can actually find that information a little bit faster. Also, when you're editing your recording, you can hide the chat, the attendee pod, and the Q&A pod. So you can actually make those go away. So when people watch it, they will not see everyone's name, they won't see all the questions in the chit chat and things like that as well. So you can save that when you edit your recording and have those not there. And you can hide the names from the attendees pod. So if you want to leave the pod, you can hide the names as well. I mentioned mobile. As I said, last month we did a ITS Connect about the iPad. So we did talk a little bit shortly about the Adobe Connect app that is available for mobile devices. You can attend meetings or host meetings on your smartphone or your tablet. You can also share from your tablet or smartphone using that. So if you are attending a meeting and someone makes you a presenter, you will be able to see the share option, and you can share right from your tablet or your phone. I have listed some links there. Adobe does have instructions for the host and presenter and then for the participants, so they're a little bit different. Also, there is some general help, so if you want to start at the very beginning and read through a lot of the information that they have for mobile, for Adobe Connect, that information is there as well. The last item I want to talk about is event management, which is new. This has been activated. If you would like to use this after looking it over, you can request it through the service desk, and they will put in a ticket to the correct resolver group. It has HTML templates, so you can actually create a meeting. You can create a template for registration. You can create a template that is already set up for that. You can create a little web page for your event. You can create custom landing and registration pages, which I just mentioned. And it has a very easy drag and drop interface. You can put in graphics. If you have ever signed up for an Adobe Connect or Adobe session, they actually do use this event management. So if you filled out a little form and then you click the link, and when you go in, you click the link and it automatically signs you in, that is actually through this event management tool. And you can also set up email triggers. So if people sign up, you can have it set up so that it emails them when it's time for the event or sends them the link. So if you want more information about that, you can go to help.adobe.com and read through that information. If you are interested in it, please contact the service desk. So I'm actually going to demonstrate some of the things I talked about, especially the recording piece, because I think that is really interesting. I find that really helpful for a lot of people. So I'm going to share my screen. So you should see an Adobe Connect session where I have a list of meetings. This is my home page. If I click on meetings, I'm going to have my list of all the meetings I've set up. I'm going to actually go to my demonstrations meeting and recordings, and you'll see all the recordings that I've done in here. So what's really nice, if you have a regular meeting, you can set up, if you didn't realize, this one meeting and then just use it over and over, and then you can record them and you'll have a list of the different recordings. You will see the edit column here, so that's what you would click to edit your video. Also, you will see a couple of these have edit and view original. View original will show you what the video looked like when it first was created. And if you have edited it, you will look at your actual video in the listing. So I'm going to show you the original. Hopefully this will show up. Can we see that? Okay. So this is my original video, and you can see what it looked like. It had all the pods on the left. You can see everybody's name. It has the little thing in the middle that's blue that's not supposed to be there. So that's what it looked like originally. So just to give you an idea of some of the things that you can do, I will now show you, I made some changes based on all the new information. So if I go to my meeting, I'm going to click on my link and it's going to open up, and it should look a little bit different. So you'll notice my chat pod is gone. Also, if I go up here and click on the drop down for sharing, I have actually bookmarked some items. If I want to jump ahead to current items, it's going to take me right to that point where I've bookmarked it. So in addition to using the clipping section at the bottom where you can actually take sections out of your video and clip them, you can actually go in and now put in these little bookmark tags and do a few other things with that. And actually, I will actually show you a demo of that. Let me go back to my demonstrations. Recordings. And I'm going to choose one that I did not edit. So I will go to Edit Recording. And you will see all this information. If I go into Settings, which is on the bottom when I open it, that is where I can actually hide the names of the attendees, hide the chat pods, the attendee pod, the Q&A pod. That's where I can do all of that. So I've checked them all just to see. So you'll notice the only thing left is my note pod, but I have removed all of those. Also, if I want to bookmark, the bookmark option is here. So if I want to just click add a bookmark, then it can actually, it'll set my time, or I can adjust that. So if I found that I wanted to go back a few seconds and start at the 30-second mark, I can put in my bookmark. If I want to put notes about it, oops, a little typo there. And now if I drop it down, I'm going to see the bookmark, and then I will also see my notes. So what's nice here too for a classroom environment is you can actually put in a bookmark, and maybe if you have, you know, read chapter 5, or this relates to chapter 5, you may want to put in the topic information, or you may want to put in references or things like that. So this is a really nice tool that you can use in addition to other tools that we have like lecture capture as well. And then additionally, you can use the little clipping items here that will allow you to clip out sections of your video. Again, it's not real fine, so it's mostly for clipping out. If you want to clip out a huge pause type information at the beginning or at the end, or if you have a section you don't want in there, you can do that. And then when you're done, make sure that you click Save, which is on the very bottom right. Next to it, will have Revert to Original. So if you started making clippings and doing all this stuff and you got kind of mixed up and lost and you don't like it, you can just start over and click Revert to Original. So that option is here as well. So I'm going to click Save, and it will take a second to save. And now it shows me what I had done. So if I want to do more work, at least I saved what I have, and I can go back in and make other changes as well. Now when I actually close this and go back to my demonstrations, recordings, now you will see that the one I was just working on bumped to the top, and it has now a View Original and Edit option. So I can go back in and edit it some more, or I can view the original, or if I want to see what I have, I can just click on the name of it. So that gives you a little better idea of how the recording feature works if you haven't used it. Also, if you want to save the recordings, you can make them offline, and it will actually download and stream it to your computer. The one caveat about that is you do have to wait for it, so it will actually play through the whole thing. So that's one way that you can save your recordings to your computer. So if you want them for reference later and you don't want to have to log into Adobe Connect, you can do that as well. Also, if you want to upload them somewhere else in your materials, you can. I'm actually going to go, we have a few minutes, I'm going to go into a meeting room and show you a couple of the other little things that I talked about. So I'm going to go into my demonstrations meeting room. And you'll see this meeting room here. Oh, actually, it's taking me into the meeting room. So on the left-hand side, you should see some little changes. I can actually change the layout. So you have different layouts for different things. And notice the attendee list is staying the same through the whole thing. Another thing I mentioned, you can remove the hide the title bar, which is that bar across the top. I can hide that. If you hover up there, it will show up again, and I can uncheck it. That was something else I mentioned. The meetings item on the top left is where you can see a lot of the things I talked about today. Preferences, mentioned that. Your bandwidth, we talked about. A couple of other things I had in the slides, your screen share, your attendee pods, things like that are located there. And just as an overview, your layouts are here. If you want to create new layouts, they will show up as well on the bottom. Your pods are here, and then your audio. So if you also, I mentioned your audio setup wizard, that is under the meeting audio setup wizard. And if you haven't used it, the presenter only area, which I have enabled, also will show up as well. So I'm going to go back to our meeting. Whoops. And bring us back. So do we have any questions while I'm moving back to the thing? Let's see, we have quite a few questions. I'm going to stop sharing and go back to my PowerPoint really quick. So I can get back to the end. So anyway, I talked about help. There's help.adobe.com, and then we also have a page on help.case as well. I'm going to look at a couple of these questions here. So Tom asked, what format are the videos downloaded in? And I believe they are downloaded in FLV format. So you would need to change them to something else if you wanted, since that's also what Adobe Connect supports. And another question, can they be edited in external editing software? I have not tried that, so I can look into that and get back to you. I've not tried to edit them outside of Adobe Connect. I've used just that editor, so I will get back to you on that. And how many simultaneous Connect sessions can the crew infrastructure support? And I don't know the answer to that either. So I will send that out to the group of participants today. Those two questions, I will get answers for that. I actually have someone typing a question. So wait a second. But I hope this was helpful to you. I hope that you've learned something a little bit different, that you can use Adobe Connect for. Another way that you can use it, like I said, there are some nice features now that can allow you to use it more for classroom use, and there are groups in the nursing school I know that use it quite extensively for classes and breakout groups and all kinds of things. So I do know it is in use for the classroom. Yingli asked, do I need to go to a special conference room to host Adobe Connect? No, you can actually host it from your computer, and everyone can come into your meeting room. So if you have a bunch of webcams, I think it supports up to 14 or 15 is a good number. Basically, it's only as big as the window will show, so the more you have, they will actually size accordingly. So if you have 9 people, you will see 3, 6, 9. If you have 15 people, the boxes will be smaller and you will see 15 across. It also depends on how you size your window. So you can go into that video window and size it so it's the full size of the meeting room, and that's the only pod there, and then you will have more space for that. But you don't need anything special. You can host it from your room. As I said, I know in the nursing school they have distance learning, and they host it from the nursing school, and all of the students come into the Connect room with their video cams. A room on campus with a web camera to show your attendees. Probably you might be able to use, I think if you are looking for something like that, you may want to use one of the active collaboration rooms or one of the telepresence rooms if you need a camera to use. If you want something that will show everyone in the room in one image, then you probably want to go with telepresence. I hope that answers your question. And it actually looks like we are about out of time. And yes, up to 40 people, I would probably consider using a video conferencing tool. So thank you for attending today. Another one will be hosted in January, so look through the daily and your email to find out what that topic is. I believe it will be something on security privacy is what we're looking at for January. And these are hosted each month, and we advertise on our ITS sites as well as through the daily and through our email list. So if you're not on our email list, you can get on that list as well by emailing us at training@case.edu. Thank you and have a great day.